Good evening, everyone. I'm Ross from Coombe Smith 150 Group Property Accountants. I'm just going to talk about a real simple topic, which is obviously you're right at the top of our list at the moment, and that is interest deductions. So what we're looking at is obviously what can we do, what's the basics with interest deductions, and how can we claim some more. So obviously the first thing to start with is you try and borrow where it's tax deductible if possible. So in the past, what we've sort of looked at is we look at all the different things. You might have a home, you might have a batch, you might have a farm, you might have a rental property, you might buy and sell properties or trade or flip, you might have a commercial property, you might have a business, all these different things. So obviously, my home, your personal house, you don't normally get a tax deduction. So generally, we would try and have that debt free and have the debt over other assets. If you've got a batch and you're using it just personal, it's your personal batch. Again, you're not going to get a tax deduction. So again, we would try and have that debt free. And in the past, we would have all the debt over the other assets. So over the farm, over the rentals, over the trading properties, over the commercial property, over the business. And we would be looking at which of these give us the best interest rates because they're all the same, they're all tax deductible. Obviously, with the new rules being announced, what's going to happen with existing rental properties, older properties, is you're going to lose that interest deduction. If you're buying an old existing property at the moment that's residential, you're going to lose that interest deduction from the 1st of October. If you've already got the rental, you're going to lose that. It's going to slowly get it phased out over 4 years. So if you're wanting the exact details on that, have a look at some of our other posts. But what we're looking at more today is, so what we want to do in general is rather than borrowing in these three areas, the personal home, the batch, and the residential rental properties, we're looking at can we borrow more in the other areas? So if you had a farm, for example, can you borrow it all in the farm and not on the residential rental? So that the farm's got the debt, the residential rental's got none. Same with commercial property, business, and if you're property trading. So there's opportunities to have the debts in those other areas where you will be tax deductible. The other one is obviously brand new residential. At the moment, the rules have not been finalised, so we don't know exactly what is a new property. And we also don't know how long is that going to last for? How long are we going to be able to claim this interest deduction for? But yeah, the other obvious at the moment would be having the debt on the new residential property and not on old existing residential properties. So what we're trying to do is juggle the debt around a little bit. So that's just some real basics. If you can juggle the debt to somewhere else, if you can borrow at the same interest rate, it obviously makes sense. If you're borrowing at the same interest rate, you want the debt on the commercial property, not on the residential rental property. Or you want the debt on the business and not the residential rental property if you're at the same interest rates. If it's not the same interest rates, what do we look at? So obviously, yeah, ideally we want to borrow at the lowest interest rate. Your rental, your batch, your personal home, maybe they're on 1 year fixed, 2.29%. Your commercial, maybe you're 3% if you're actually having to secure it over the commercial property. So if you were borrowing at 3.5, less tax, say 33%, that brings it down to 2.35. This, even though it's non-deductible, is actually cheaper than that. So just something to bear in mind. What I would generally look at doing if you're looking at borrowing in the commercial entity is going, yes, we're borrowing in the commercial entity, but we're wanting to secure it over residential rental property. So therefore, we still want the 2.29%. And then obviously, when that's tax deductible, that will be a much lower rate than this. But yeah, do be careful. Don't pay a whole lot higher rate on business lending or commercial lending or farming residential just to get the tax deduction, and then find out that your overall net interest that you're paying is actually higher than it would have been non-deductible. So yeah, just something to think about. And just like with most things, yeah, it's worth having a chat through this. Have a think about where you're putting cash. Have a look at where you're borrowing. So if you've got cash, obviously you want to put it in the 3 crossed out areas. If you've got cash, you don't want to use it to buy a farm, buy a business, or buy shares. You'd be much better off to borrow for those because it's be tax deductible and then put your cash in these items. So hopefully that's given you a couple of little things to think about. We've made available a whole lot more free chats. So if you're wanting to discuss some of this, yeah, free chat's a great starting spot, and then potentially actually reviewing your structure and having a proper paid property advisory meeting. But yeah, worth having a quick chat with one of our team, working out, is there some simple things like this can we do? Is there some simple things to get the interest deductions better than you've currently got them? And obviously we're looking at over the next 4 years, as interest gets phased out on existing rentals, these sort of items are becoming more important. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, and yeah, watch out for our upcoming videos. We've got heaps more coming up over the next few weeks. Thanks a lot. Bye.